if you currently have nothing to play, well, here's 16 absolutely amazing options.
Yay, hello, what's up? It's that time again. Welcome back to our monthly look at new games. No preamble with this one. Let's just get right into it, starting with my top picks, what I think are the best looking new games coming out in this month of August 2023. These will be listed in order of release date. Kicking things off, Baldurs Gate 3. Man, you know you got a good game when other developers in the industry are coming up publicly saying that we shouldn't let it raise our expectations because
200-hour campaign for the average person to complete. Options matter. So much freedom. Do pretty much whatever you want. And the best part, the AAA gaming industry is literally shivering because they are afraid that this is going to be the new standard. And they know they can't make a game with love.
It's so good, it's too good that it would be unfair to set a high bar for other studios. That is exactly what has happened with Baldur's Gate 3. Yep. Funny enough, similar situation happened around the release of Elden Ring. But anyways, yeah, seems like if you like old school D&D laden CRPGs with a lot of player agency, variety, and thousands of potential outcomes, this will be one to play. It is a bit of deja vu for me, as I could have sworn I played this game nearly 3 years ago, because I did. It first released into early access in October 2020, and even back then, with what was a fraction of a game, I was pretty impressed. Well, that fraction of a game has now been finished, and it is whole at this point,
huge.
And by all accounts is shaping up to be very, very good. So here's the quick rundown. This was developed by Larian Studios, creators of Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. They are referring to...
Also, by the way, huge and amazing games that, you know, if you're interested into this, you should probably try. Well, even if you're not interested into this, you should probably try. It's on Steam, and peak player base was roughly almost 500,000. Almost. A little bit shy. But yeah, that should just give you all the necessary understanding of how ginormous this bad boy is.
Baldur's Gate 3 is a story-rich, party-based, next-generation RPG, an evolution of their successful formula with their first 2 games, set in the world, of course, of Dungeons and Dragons, where the choices that we make shape a tale of fellowship and betrayal. The game has got 7 unique origin heroes for you to pick from. These will offer handcrafted experiences. Each of them have their own unique traits, agenda, and outlook on the world, with stories that intersect with the overarching narrative, where your choices will drastically influence that. Or beyond that, there's also
a naked mode. You can play the game fully nude, and it doesn't hide anything. You even have penis sizes in that quality.
A robust character creator with unprecedented levels of customization. It features 31 sub-races on top of the 11 core races, and 46 sub-classes branching out of the 12 base classes. All told, there's over 600 spells and actions, which offer loads of freedom in the game's handcrafted and highly interactable world. Pretty much everything in the environment, every object, everything you can think of can be picked up or moved or interacted with or exploded or set a booby trap or whatever. Super immersive interactive play space. It's based on the D&D 5e rule set. It's got team-based initiative, advantage and disadvantage, and role modifiers, combined with advanced AI, expanded environmental interactions like I just mentioned, and a combat system that rewards strategy and foresight. There are 3
essentially just a good game. The combat feels good, and if you have seen a single spell how it's cast nowadays, ooh, man, that spellcasting looks like better than anything that, you know, Marvel Studios made at the peak of Marvel, you know? It's absolutely insane. And yes, that's not even a gaming comparison. That's a that's 100 million CGI comparison.
3 different difficulty settings, letting you customize the challenge of your combat, and over 174 hours of cinematics. No wonder developers are complaining. That is a... This is a 174 hours of cinematics in this game. Are you kidding me? On top of that, this game can be played multiplayer online with up to 4 players. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I played this a few years ago, I thought it was really good then, and at this point, it seems to have just gotten significantly better. Pretty awesome to hear. Baldur's Gate 3 coming on August 3rd to PC for $59.99. It is then releasing on PS5 on August 6th for $69.99, because Sony is, yeah, they're going to be charging you those extra $10 for just about everything. Before we get into the next game, though, a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Skillshit, an online community with thousands of classes.
Yeah, Skillshit. An absolute scam, by the way. Never buy Skillshit. It's garbage. It's literally trash amongst trash. There's like 2 good courses on Skillshit as a whole, and everything else is literally YouTubeable. But if you want, you can use Force's code, which is probably just his name as always, and that's it. But Skillshit is garbage. Do not buy it unless you want to get scammed.
All right, next up on this month's list is Atlas Fallen. You know, it's always nice to see a mid-sized studio find success and build a strong following off of the back of well-regarded, albeit relatively niche games. And Deck 13 is one such developer. 2017's The Surge was one of those lesser-known but much beloved by those who played it, Souls-inspired ARPGs. They followed it up in 2019 with The Surge 2, which similarly did pretty well. And now, 4 years later, they're about to release something that's a bit different. So Atlas Fallen is an action RPG, but this time it is way less Souls and a bit more Monster Hunter meets Forspoken meets like modern day action RPG. The game is set in this vast desert landscape, which you traverse by more or less surfing at high speeds through the sand. And yes, that is where the Forspoken comparison comes into play. And hopefully it's the only point of comparison.
Hey, if the movement is good, people are gonna like the game a lot. Just saying that. It's always the case. If a game nails down movement, how it looks when you move, it's already a good game, because only bad games do not care about how you move. But that's very important, how your character looks, how you move. All of that is super important for actually making a good gaming experience.
Comparison, because as we know, Forspoken didn't turn out to be that good of a game. But beyond that, there's other movement abilities. You got double jumping, dashing, and the ability to float. And mobility is going to play a big role in combat as well, as the game has a fair amount of flyers and large enemies with weak points that are high up that you have to traverse in order to reach, breaking down their armor basically and exposing them to more damage. It's got an action combat system with the usual fare of light and heavy attacks. There's active dodging, parrying, and a combo system. You've got this gauntlet that will transform into 3 different weapons, each with their own strengths and use cases, all of which is further enhanced by this momentum system. So the longer you're engaged in combat, the more momentum you build up. This in turn makes your attacks deal more damage, but it also progressively unlocks access to stronger abilities. It basically works in 3 tiers, and as you progress the tiers, you can then use those abilities, with the higher tier abilities doing more damage and just being stronger. The game's actually got over 150 essence stones, which you can either find or craft, and these function as active and passive abilities. So there's a lot of variety, lots of different things you can choose from. So they're calling this a...
Ooh, this looks definitely like some, this looks very good, honestly, for just, build your own type of character, and it feels good. A progression system in games like this is so good. Games like this, if you like them, are already good, but if you add a progression system on top, yeah, chances are it's going to be even better in that case. Also, the graphics just, wow, it's quite impressive. This doesn't look like Unreal 5, probably isn't, but man, the graphics look impressive. You got that Elden Ring sort of vibe a little bit, rune stuff here and whatnot. Seems good.
Semi-open world. You've got these large play spaces that are broken up into different sections. You'll explore, collecting unique items, armor, and essences, searching for ways to get access to locked areas or hard to reach areas. All the while, you're fighting through a variety of different basic enemies, elite enemies, and major boss battles. Also, this is a story-driven game. It can be played solo, but also has 2-player co-op. Atlas Fallen is coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC on August 10th for $49.99. Wayfinder is an upcoming action combat character-based MMO light. It takes inspiration from things like Warframe with a gameplay loop, character, and progression systems, familiar from that game, and puts it into these open zone areas that you will explore seeing other players, which is kind of where the MMO light elements come into play. I played this game for around 40 hours a few months ago, and while I do have some early concerns, overall I enjoyed my time, and I am looking forward to seeing more. I would say probably one of its stronger features is a fairly well-executed action combat system that feels pretty good to play. They're also...
Looks like some kind of Genshin Impact ripoff, honestly. At first I didn't even understand, wait, is this top-down? Is it not top-down? No, it's not top-down. I don't know. Guns and abilities? Guns and abilities usually don't mix that well. It's kind of hard to make it unique, but it is what it is.
Appears to be a decent amount of enemy design and encounter variety, which I love to see. The game's features include those open world zones. These are shared spaces. You're going to see other players running around doing a variety of just the open world activities. Beyond fighting groups of various types of monsters in the open world, you're also going to find...
Looks super slow, by the way. That's, I don't know, this seems kind of a little bit sus. Seems a little bit slow.
Public events, world bosses.
And if it's this slow, the game cannot be complicated because you're pretty much locked into animations. Look at this.
Various points of interest like landmarks, vistas, and various secrets to discover. There are side quests and objectives to do and collectibles. The game has a system of instance procedural dungeons where they take tile sets, rearrange them in different layouts and placements so that every run feels different, which is pretty important because these instance dungeons you'll be running a lot. They make up for a majority probably of your playtime, as this is where you go.
Okay, so let me tell you one important thing about semi-RNG dungeons, or anything that you want to call it like that. They suck. They just flat out suck, honestly. Developers use this is like Diablo 4, right? Where the developers are, oh, there's more than 100 unique dungeons where you can... All of those dungeons feel the same because they're semi-RNG, which means at some point you're going to play enough of them to understand that the RNG is fake. And if there's one worse thing than actually going through a place that you have gone 10,000 times through, it's suddenly the realization that it's not RNG. You're playing through something that you have already seen, and it's just fake. That is the worst.
To farm a lot of the progression related things, the resources, the currencies, and the loot. Besides changing things up with the procedural nature, there's also these dungeon mutations, which will further mix things up, add variety, increasing the challenge for better rewards. And then also one big thing with this game is it features a character system rather than classes. So the game has 6 playable characters. These are distinct. They've got specific names. They are fully voice acted, and they each have unique abilities, playstyles, and backstories. So think along the line of the warframes in Frames, or what you would get for characters in a MOBA. You're not picking the warrior class, you're playing a specific character with a specific name who has 4 default abilities. And those abilities, while they have some level enhancement and they can be modified somewhat with certain pieces of gear, for the most part, the 4 abilities of each character are the 4 abilities. Oh, every other person you...
I don't know. This game actually doesn't look good in my opinion. Like, look at this. This combat seems so slow. Do you not also think that this seems like something that should have been at least faster so it feels better? Because one thing is to have actual easy combat that is not challenging at all. The other thing is having easy combat that is not challenging at all, but it's slow. And the slow one it feels just bad. Just looking from this, I can already tell if I decided to try and play this, I would not be happy. It's too slow. The bosses probably like attack every 10 seconds and you need to avoid it, and it's very obvious, and there's literally no challenge or anything. It's just slow gameplay. That's the vibe I'm currently getting from this. But what do you think?
See, who's playing that character also has those same 4 abilities. There are a variety of different passives as well, and the big chance for variety with each of the characters is actually the weapon, because the weapon basically functions beyond having a different attack pattern, you know, melee or ranged or whatever, different attack speeds, different attack combos. Weapons will also have unique abilities attached to them. They kind of function as your 5th ability, and there will be multiple variations of each weapon type in the game. Lots of different progression systems in this game. You'll be upgrading your characters, your weapons. There are accessories, which are your types of gear, echoes, which are powerful gems that will enhance your gear, and then there's also a affinity system. You level it up, you get stronger. There's also social towns in this game. You're gonna go here. Cool. There's NPCs to pick up quests, buy and sell items. This is also where you can set out on
That's not cool. We just literally saw that NPC like 2 seconds ago. It's the same NPC. Wait, actually that's even the same weapon. I thought at least the weapon's different. Nah, it's the same weapon, fam. Nah, this is a disaster, not a game. This is not going to have a long lifespan. I'm sure it's going to have a dedicated, small, super into it player base that loves it. But yeah, everyone loves something, okay? We all have had that moment when we're playing a game and it's like super, super niche and most people don't agree with it. For me personally, one of my favorite games of all time was Rift. Yeah, how long was that ago? A competitor to World of Warcraft. Not really. But man, I love that game. I absolutely enjoy the class mechanics, the everything. But not a lot of people did. Probably some people who have played Rift are saying, "Whoa, that game was garbage. Why did you play it?" Yeah, a lot of people thought about it like that, but I liked it for some stupid reason. Everyone just has that sometimes, you know?
Expeditions, which are just repeatable dungeon grinds, craft weapons and gear here, customizable player housing will also be here, and yes, there's social hubs, so you're going to see other players running around as well. Wayfinder is coming out on August 15th. It is first launching into early access. Now, in order to get into early access, you will have to buy this Founders Pack, but when the game officially releases, I'm assuming sometime next year, into 1.0, it is going to be fully free to play, with monetization coming through the visual customization side of things. Okay, next up, Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew. This is a stealth strategy game set
I was gonna say, it was the Sea of Thieves.
in the Caribbean during an alternate history of the golden age of piracy. You'll
Okay.
gather a crew of ghost pirates with magical abilities that you will use to infiltrate islands in search of long-lost treasure. The developer, Mimimi Games, has stated that their goal with Shadow Gambit is to push and evolve the stealth strategy genre, and it seems
Okay.
like they may have done that. Some of the early hands-on impression from a few months ago came back fairly positive.
Yo,
Primarily,
this is literally Commandos. This is literally Commandos. I like Commandos, but it's kind of a niche thing, you know, for strategy players. I don't know. It looks good. The graphics look good. I mean,
touting the game's expansive size, unique mechanics, abilities, and world interactions that make for a fun twist on this genre of game. So you've got this base of operations known as your ghost pirate ship, and you will use that to sail around, going to different islands that you will then infiltrate, pulling
I mean, that's probably like an upgradable base. That's cool.
off heists and salvaging treasure, infiltrating fortresses, sneaking behind enemy lines by staying in the shadows, and combining the magical skills of your crew. So as you play, you're going to come across other dead pirates who you will then revive, adding them to your crew. There's 8 of them in total, each with their own different
Yeah, that's like spy. That's literally a spy.
unique special supernatural powers. Like there's one
And they make noise around them when you do something. Oh no, this is literally Commandos.
who will let you
Or
launch
Commandos, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that game. But you know what I'm talking about. Commandos, Commandos 2, Commandos 3. 3 was like, meh. But it was playable. It was playable.
friend or foe out of a magical cannon. There's a soul anchor that you can use to open up portals, teleporting all over the place. Got some really unique abilities and potential interactions here. So before each mission, you will select from the crewmates that you have available that you want to bring with you, and then you also plan a path to enter and exit each island, and it's your choice. You want to go in stealthy, or you want to go head on, guns blazing, using your abilities, manipulating the environment to your advantage. There's going to be a lot.
Let me guess. If you go in guns blazing and alarm triggers and more, you patrol spawns. Hey, I mean, this is either gonna be a super hit for people or a super not hit for people. It completely depends, do you like this type of games. Because honestly, I'm kind of making jokes that this is literally Commandos, but man, being literally Commandos is a good thing at the end of the day. This looks nice.
Lot of options here as to how you approach and take on every one of the game's islands. And the islands themselves are these unique handcrafted locations with a lot of different sandbox elements that you can play with in conjunction with your various abilities. This game seems pretty cool. From what I've heard, it seems like it's fairly well done. Looking forward to it. Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew is coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC on August 17th. You know, a single player magic focus FPS and a brand new IP from EA wasn't on my bingo card for 2023, but
Oh, wow.
here we are. Immortals of AVM will feature a roughly 25-hour story-driven campaign set in this fantasy
Oh
sci-fi
no! This looks.
Our
This
stories
looks. Look. What does this look like? What's that absolute disaster called? Titanfall? No, not Titanfall. The other one. The other one where, you know, the developers literally just put the story together in the last month until release because no one had any Anthem. There we go. Bruh, this looks like Anthem. No, thank you.
Campaign set in this fantasy sci-fi world that's under siege, with you being the last line of defense. Who would have thought? This is a story-driven game. It's chapter-based, so you're going to start in chapter 1. You play through these levels. The levels themselves are designed in a way to focus on the moment-to-moment gameplay with a little bit of exploration and puzzle solving here and there. But yeah, you go through the story, you fight things, you kill bosses, you pick up loot, and then you progress to chapter 2, so on and so on.
It looks interesting, but I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm sold.
Developer has actually described this as a semi-open corridor shooter with Metroidvania-like elements. So you'll move through a space, you'll find an area that you can't go across, a gap you can't jump, a door you can't open, and eventually you find the means of progressing, whether that's a new ability or a key, letting you get past that obstacle and move forward. There's some light puzzle solving in the game as well, but for the most part, you'll be engaging in combat. And so the combat itself, it's what they're referring to as a first-person action.
Actually, now seeing this, the combat does seem kind of slightly appealing at the bare minimum.
Spell Slinger. You've got magical abilities that basically function as their FPS counterparts. So you're going to have spells that are like rifles, ones that are like SMGs, like shotguns, like swords. There's also a wide range of offensive, defensive, and utility abilities. In total, the game's got 25 spells broken up into distinct categories, as well as elements, with the different elements used to counter different enemy defenses. There's gear in the game that's also broken into 4 categories: sigils, totems, rings, and bracers. All of the loot is predetermined. It's pre-placed with a set name, so a certain piece will always be in that chest or always drop off that.
I don't know. It's like, okay, I guess you want loot, but look at this blue magic power. And there was some other item that was shown that's like a little 40% more damage. Yeah. I mean, it's nice you have items, but if items do so little as literally just be stat sticks, I think we have moved so far past in gaming that, you know, you don't want an item to be just a stat stick, especially it's like a bracer, ring, or whatever. You probably want it to be a little bit more interesting than just a stat stick.
With a set name, so a certain piece will always be in that chest or always drop off that boss, for example. There's no randomization, no randomized stats, no randomized drops, nothing. While the game does have gear, it is absolutely not a looter shooter. They made sure to say that. Outside of the gear, there's also further progression via skill tree, one for each school of magic with over 80 talents to choose from. They've also said you have to specialize.
A whole whopping 8 talents. Bruh, I don't know. I think people are going to play it and say that, yeah, this is undercooked. And then there's going to be an expansion, and then it's going to be cooked.
You cannot unlock everything. There just won't be enough skill points, but there is a respec option if you do want to play around with different builds. And speaking of replayability, they have said this game is going to last in the ballpark of 25 hours. Again, it's story-driven, it's chapter-based, so 25 hours roughly for a full playthrough. There's 3 different difficulty modes: easy, medium, and hard, with scaling damage and health, as well as more aggressive AI the harder you go. And they said there is some post-credits content, but they've kind of kept it under wraps exactly what it is, saying while there isn't something like New Game Plus, there will be reasons to go back and revisit chapters that you've already played through, because things will be different, things will have changed. Immortals of AVM is coming to PS5.
I mean, the game doesn't look bad per se, but this definitely feels like something that's gonna be like, oh, feels slightly underwhelming in a lot of aspects, and then there's gonna be like a patch, like, you know, couple of months later that actually iterates further in a lot of these things, and then it's gonna be okay. Doesn't look bad per se, but again, I can already see the classic problems that people are gonna bring up with it. The boring loot, it's just, you know, shooty, McShooty, and there's nothing really else. Why can't we actually have enough skill points to go in there? Talent tree doesn't look finished. I mean, as long as it's fun to shoot, it's gonna be fine, but those are the problems that people are gonna say about this game. I am 100% sure.
Xbox and PC on August 22nd for $59.99. Armored Core 6. This is an interesting one. I think this looks really, really good. I've been excited for this game. Everything I've seen looks awesome, but man, has the discourse around this title been really rough online. People looking forward to the next FromSoft title, and then other people gatekeeping them, saying they shouldn't be. It's nothing like Souls, which, I mean, duh. And saying that they should keep Soul fans and Soul's design philosophy away from the Armored Core franchise. It's been exhausting to follow, but honestly, forget all of that. Who cares? I've heard
just a bunch of elitists fighting about what they think is important. literally no by the way different than me, just talking about what I also think about these games. I could be wrong, I could be right, but at least I'm not gonna, try and force you into my beliefs.
Mostly good things from the early impressions. The game seems like it'll be fun, and that is all I care about. The different corners of a developer's fan base bickering online. I can't be bothered. Armored Core 6 looks sick. Piloting mechs with a lot of customization through this wide array of levels. I think they said there might be like 80 to 100 levels in total, while taking on mechs and gargantuan bosses, all on the backdrop of this desolate planet that's been bombarded by cosmic fire and is also in the grip of a never-ending war. Man, that is a video game-ass video game, and I cannot wait. General overview here. Combat in Armored Core 6 looks to be combining the mechanics from the original series of Armored Core games with a bit of a modern-day twist, adding some of the lessons FromSoft has learned from their Souls series. The game's going to make use of Armored Core's three-dimensional combat, of course, its mission structure, its atmosphere, and its customization, but that will be combined with things like hard lock targeting, the pacing, and attack telegraphs from boss battles often seen in the Souls franchise. They still have the soft lock, similar to how traditional Armored Core games have worked. When you get within range of enemies, your missiles will prime and automatically lock on to the closest target, but then on top of that, there is hard lock, letting you manually focus single targets, just like many other modern-day action RPG games. Typical assortment of weapons, machine guns, missiles, cannons, and other ordnance. You've got 4 weapon slots that you can mix and match as you please, depending on your specific core. There's also a system of shields with perfectly timed blocks and a variety of melee weapons to choose from. The game's got a stagger system where you can stagger enemies for increased damage or opening them up to be kicked off of the map, and the assault boost letting you dash forward either to charge enemies or to avoid incoming attacks. Lots of different movement and utility abilities. Of course, you can fly using your boosters and thrusters. There's also an...
Bruh, please explain to me, what's the point of making a literal tank that moves on the ground, but giving it a fucking sword? Please explain to me how that is smart or even remotely good.
X-ray scan where you can see enemies through hard objects. There's these different expansions with things like radar jams, EMPs, flares, and even repair kits, adding healing to the game, which I'm fairly sure is relatively new to the core series, but I'm not a hardcore fan, right? So I probably shouldn't talk about Armored Core. Big boss battles, that is absolutely going to be a thing. We saw some of this in the early impressions that came out like last week or so. These bosses look awesome. These fights look awesome. I cannot wait to learn and engage with these systems. Should be really, really enjoyable. And then also the game's designed so it's not open world. It's followed.
Man, Volley got fat. What can I say? He upgraded himself a little bit.
In the footsteps of prior Armored Core games, using that mission-based structure. You go through missions, following the narrative, moving from one story beat and location to the next, taking on bosses, completing the mission, and then going on to the next mission. Most of the missions will consist of levels that have multiple paths, providing some variety in how you approach them. You'll take on different groups of enemies, go through different challenging encounters, open various gates, and of course fight in those massive boss battles. And then it would not be an Armored Core game without customization, and you can customize just about everything for your core, its unit, frame, inner categories. The system is clearly a bit more streamlined when compared to prior Armored Core games, but still looks to have a fair bit of depth to it. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC on August 25th for $59.99. All right, so those are the main games, what I think are the best looking, most promising new games coming out this month, but as usual, we got quite a few honorable mentions. First up is Sengoku Dynasty, an open world survival game set in feudal Japan. It's going to feature a variety of biomes with
everything is going to be set in Japan at some point.
Forest mountains, cherry
place bad. Place Japan. Oh, it's place Japan. Oh boy, yeah. Well, it works. What can I say? If it works, it works. Just keep on trucking, boy.
groves and hot springs. It's called an open world village build.
Okay, we're going to skip through these.
An army, equip and position your units, make the important choices, and then watch them go to battle. You might remember the launch your way to victory, fighting with style as you fill your panache meter to unlock special skills. The combat areas are full of various opportunities to experiment with the environment as you surprise stun. Arrive in a dark and desolate Fort Solace. Head inside because there's an imminent storm. Of course, there's an imminent storm. And then as nighttime approaches, events escalate and spiral out of control. Of course, they spiral out of control. It's another horror game. The story is told across 4 chapters. Immersive storytelling, they've said, with grounded visuals and animations running on Unreal Engine 5. It will be spooky. Fort Solace comes out on August 20th.
Okay, that actually looked a little bit good.
Released in 2019. Is
pixel art sucks.
2.5D puzzle platformer. It's set in this beautiful fantasy world with stunning visuals.
Wait, we already have this game. Trine 5. I think I know this game. It's like you can. Okay, that's a puzzle solver. Polygon.
Heard. I'll be talking about this a little bit more in the future, but don't expect full-blown.
Okay, looks garbage.
Straight, and it was kind of janky, really rough around the edges. Probably going to be super predatory monetization, but the game itself had.
Okay, super predatory monetization.
And any money. Skull and Bones has a closed beta happening on August 25th. This is Ubisoft's pirate game. Is this
yes, another Ubisoft disaster. 10 out of 10, boys. Well, I think that's honestly pretty much it. Wow, Force. What an absolute giga chat. Anyway, that's pretty much it. This was Quizzer Sensei. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.